Gotten into all of that, I'm going to jump right in. I don't want to waste your time. I'm going to jump right into the topic that we're talking about. And that is this. Is my story worth telling? Is my story worth telling? This may be a question that you have asked yourself. This is a question that I have asked myself so many times. And it's a question that we're going to get into today. We're going to get into some stuff that you may really either haven't thought about or have thought about, need to think about. We're going to get into some tough stuff here, okay? Let's ask the first question. The very first question that I want us to ask, I want you to ask yourself is this. And I have all my notes over here, so if you see me looking over here, it's because I'm just looking at my notes really quick. But here's the question that I want us to ask ourselves right now, before we get into anything else, right now. And that is this. Will anyone care? Will anyone care? That's a serious question to ask. I want you to just think about that question. Have you asked yourself that question? And I'm not just talking about like, I'm standing up in front of people and I'm telling them something that they've come to hear. I'm talking about when you're in relationships, when you're in conversations with people, are you asking yourself that question? Will anyone care? Is what I'm saying interesting to anyone? Or maybe you already are telling yourself, I'm a boring person, so my content's boring, right? I ask myself those questions, and I want to share a little bit about the context of my life and why I'm doing this and why that matters to you. I was born with disabilities. I was born without hands. I have fused elbows, and it makes things difficult, but I was born that way. And so I deal with it. That's what I do. And I've gone through a lot of surgeries because I have a lot of joint problems and congenital deficiencies and dysfunctions and things like that. And so I've had a lot of really painful, hard stuff that I've had to deal with. And I've had people ask me, like, how in the world are you happy? And how in the world do you like deal with what you deal with? And I've had people say, your story is inspiring. Your story is amazing. I love listening to what you have to say. But that doesn't mean that I always feel that way. Sometimes I ask myself this question too. Does anyone care? Does anyone care about my story? Does anyone care what I have to say? Well, here's the deal. Some people won't care. And we got to get that through our heads right now because not everyone needs to care. Guess what? There is over 7 billion people in the world, over 7 billion people. And some of those people are not going to care. But most of those people are not strong enough to tell their own story. Not even other people's stories. They're not strong enough to tell their own story, what they know best. And the beauty about humanity and how we function together is that we all relate to something different. We all relate to things about each other that are different, but it's emotions, it's how we feel about things, it's how we respond to things. Those are the things that we relate to. Those are the things that help us understand each other. And that's so cool because we all have those things that we experience. We all have stories and things that we've dealt with and things that make us feel specific ways. We all have something to share. We all have a story to tell. So there's over 7 billion people in the world, and someone out there is going to be inspired by your story. Someone's going to be motivated. Someone is going to be impacted by your story. You who are watching, someone is going to be inspired by your story. You have a tribe. And guess what? They're waiting. They're waiting for you to tell your story. They were waiting for me to tell my story. They were waiting for me to get up at my first public speaking event, which was in a classroom in a little college, and my piano teacher was so awesome, and she knew that I was wanting to do public speaking. She knew I had a natural knack for it, and she pushed me to do it. And I'm so glad that she told me that, and I hope she's watching because I owe her so much. And she had me get up in front of her music class, her college music class, and tell why I loved art and why I loved playing piano and what that had to do with my life, how that inspired me. And that was the first time I'd ever really talked to people in public, and I was scared. But I had a story to tell, and there were people that were there that were impacted by that story. So you have a story to tell. And even if just one person is impacted by your story, it's worth telling. It's worth telling. Why do we feel nervous and insecure? And why do we not tell our stories? Why do we have problems telling our stories? Our stories, the things that are about us. Why do we have those problems? And I think we all have these problems because we're afraid of what others might think of us. I have a list here, and we all know this list. Come on, get real with me. We all know this list. You know, if we're being honest, these are the reasons why we don't want to tell our story and we don't want to get out there and tell people how we're feeling and what's going on. And that is, we're afraid that we're going to be judged. We're afraid that we're going to be ridiculed. We're afraid that people are going to make fun of us. And they may. The deal is they may make you feel silly or stupid. But I love this quote from Eleanor Roosevelt, and it sums us up. Like, it sets this record straight, and I love this. I'm going to read it to you. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. This is a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt, and she did a lot of really amazing things during her life. I bet she had a lot of opposition. I bet she had a lot of fellow females who felt upset about some of the things that she was doing. I'm sure she had a whole lot of men who were really angry that she was doing the things she was doing. I bet she had a lot of people against her, and she's the one saying this. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. That's not something we hear often. We get stuck in our heads about what other people are doing on social media and what other people are doing in the world and where people are traveling. I mean, I'm preaching to myself, people. Like, I deal with this too. Getting in my head about what other people are thinking about me, and maybe they're not even thinking about me at all. Maybe they're not even thinking at all. I mean, I remember in high school, I'm getting off on a little tangent, but I'm going to come right back around, I promise you. In high school, I was so focused on what other people thought about me. Can we all relate? Can we all relate? Comment down below if you can relate. High school. Those are some rough times. And, here's the deal. When I got out of high school and I talked to some of those girls that I was afraid to be friends with in high school, and I thought that they were making fun of me behind my back, they weren't even thinking about me. They weren't even thinking about me. Most of the people that we're afraid of and afraid of their opinion, they're not thinking about us. They're thinking about themselves and how insecure they look and how wrong they're doing it, okay? So get that out of your brain. Eleanor Roosevelt, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. I love that quote. It's like, that's power right there. Comment down below and, let me know if this is value for you, if you are getting some value out of this, if you are feeling inspired to get out of your head and get out of other people's head and do what you need to do, tell your story. So I guess we're going to go to the question, I mean, is your story worth telling? And the answer is yes. Like, you've got a story in there. You've got experiences. You got things going on, and they can inspire and motivate other people to action. To action. Whatever that action is, to do things. Wonderful things. So the answer is yes, your story is worth telling. Now, here's where things get a little rough, okay? Here's where things get a little hard. Does everyone tell powerful stories? No. Everyone has a powerful story to tell, but does everyone tell powerful stories? No. And we're going to get into why that is. We're going to get into some of the things that make a powerful story. But those are not statements that are the same. Those are different statements. I want to make sure that that's clear. I don't want that to sound redundant. We all have stories to tell, powerful stories to tell, but we're all not telling them in a powerful, efficient way, okay? And I'm going to share with you guys some things that make for powerful content, and more specifically, some things that make for a powerful communicator. And these are things that I have learned over time of being in classes, in communication classes, doing it myself, falling on my face, making mistakes in areas where I've done public speaking and teaching and things like that. But these are also things that I've learned from other people, from other amazing, amazing people when telling their stories, when sharing their stories. Here are some things that I've learned to help that story be more powerful and more effective and more interesting. And I'm going to read these to you, and then we're going to kind of go back over and just kind of reinforce some of these things, because some of these things are hard things maybe to think about in who you are right now. So I'm going to start from the top and then just read this down. So we've got these powerful characteristics of effective communicators. Number one, relatability. Okay, if your story is not relatable, if people aren't feeling like, I know how they're feeling, like I have felt that way before. If they're not getting that from your story, then it's going to be really hard to make that effective or to make that powerful, because they're not getting any relatability. Relatability is a huge thing. You need to start there when thinking about how you're telling a story. And sometimes it's just that, how you tell a story. The method in which you use, the medium in which you use. Are you using film? Are you using written word? Like, what are you doing to tell that story more powerfully? But relatability is a huge thing, and that's why I wanted to start there. We've got intentionality, or being concise, really thinking about the content that you're making, the things that you are doing, the things that you're cutting out. I'm in a group right now, and we're doing this really cool global project, and we're always talking about this. What can we cut out to make this story the most concise, effective story that can be? And that's hard sometimes. Honestly, that's hard for me because I'm a chatty girl. Doing this live stream is hard for me because I'm really having to think about the words that I am saying. But that's why I'm going to do it. I'm going to do more of it. Getting out there, doing what I need to do. Okay, so we've got intentionality, being concise, really thinking about the content that we're putting out. Is it the most precise that it can be? We've got pace. This is something that oftentimes we don't think about, and yet it's so important. You can turn someone off. Like if you're watching a YouTube channel, the minute they're going too slow or the minute they're going too fast, you're like, I'm done. I can't understand what they're saying, or my brain's going too fast and they're not going fast enough. Like, pace is a huge thing, and something that I've learned along the way of doing YouTube and doing public speaking is inflection is a big deal when talking about pace. Sometimes it's not even the speed in which you're going. It can be, when you start a sentence, you start here, and then you raise to your point, you raise to the emphasis, the place in which your sentence is making the most impact, and then you bring it back down to end your sentence. And now you're gonna hear me do it, and you're gonna be like, oh, good grief. Now I know what's going on. Inflection is a huge thing, and it helps people kind of just understand what you're saying, figuring out what you are saying. Inflection is a big thing with pace. Quality over quantity. This kind of goes back to the intentionality, being concise. This is a big deal, guys. Quality over quantity. Here's the deal. It kind of goes back to what can you cut out? What is not necessary? And it also is like, you don't need to tell your whole story. Like when I share in front of people about doing art, being an artist, painting, I do painting, and they're like, how do you do this? I almost always get that question. If you want to know the answer to that question, how do I do it? I have a YouTube video about that on my channel. And we talk all about how to ask good questions. But I pick one topic, like one super specific topic when I talk to people, because I know that I can get all over the place if I try to tell everything at once. And here's the deal. If you're trying to tell everyone everything at once, no one's going to be impacted. No one is going to benefit from that because you're going all over the place. So, quality over quantity is a big thing to be thinking about, a big thing to be, analyzing the stuff that you're putting out, analyzing the things that you're saying, figuring out what needs to be there and what doesn't need to be there. Okay, something else is thoughtfulness. Thoughtfulness. Being kind with your words. Thinking about how will they impact people? How will your words impact people, either positively or negatively? Be really thinking about how other people are going to feel when you say something. And sometimes that means making people feel uncomfortable. If you're really trying to drive home a point, like me, like I'm probably making some of you uncomfortable with some of the things I'm saying, because like when we really think about good communication, we see all of these things and we're like, oh, I'm not good at that, and I'm not good at that. And I'm not trying to discourage you to not tell your story. In fact, that's what I'm saying in this. Is your story worth telling? Yes. Now we need to learn how to tell a powerful story. So thinking about it, thoughtfulness is so, so important. Nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication. Oftentimes we see nonverbal communication in a bad way. We see people fidgeting. We see people using their hands in very odd ways, and we see them, touching their face, and we see them shaking. We see all of these things going on, and we're like, oh man, oh man, oh man, like they're nervous. It doesn't matter if we're trying or not. Our nonverbal communication is communicating something to the people that are watching. It is. And so what we have to do is we have to really think about, how are we presenting ourselves to people? What's going on with our hands? What's going on with our feet? Are we moving too much? What do we need to do to make ourselves control that energy of nervousness? One of the things that I always find really, really helpful when talking about just nonverbal communication is one of the things that blah, blah, blah. One of the things that I'm getting lost on my words, guys. One of the things that I find really helpful when thinking about nonverbal communication is filming myself. Now, obviously, I'm a YouTuber, so like I film myself all the time, so I'm learning a lot about myself. But if you're doing public speaking, if you're trying to like share something with someone online or share something with someone in person, like record yourself a couple times. That may seem scary, but the more you watch yourself, watch your nonverbal communication, the more effective of a communicator you're going to be, because you're going to be able to detect those things that are fidgeting, those things that are moving around and making you nervous and making other people nervous with you. It's kind of like driving. When you're with a new driver, oftentimes like you can tell they're a new driver because the person in the next seat is like nervous or like kind of, stiff and like ready to grab the steering wheel, like you feel that vibe of nervousness or that vibe of like being new, and that's okay. That's totally fine. But the more you watch yourself, the better off you're going to be. Okay, let's move on. We've got the final one, confidence. This is where like people get all the way to the end of this list and then they quit. They quit because you can't necessarily teach confidence. Let me say that again. I have to choose my words wisely. Yes, you can teach confidence, but you teach confidence through the things above. So if you're focusing on the things above, if you're really thinking about the content that you're making, if you're focusing on your pace, if you're focusing on the relatability of your topic, if you're focusing on those things, then you're going to gain confidence naturally by just knowing your content and being confident in the content that you create. That comes from learning to create powerful content. The confidence is going to come. But know that confidence is a key. It's a really important thing. And so you want to be really working on the things above to gain that confidence, to be completely well-rounded in your good communication, in your powerful communication. These are the things that make good communicators. And here's the deal. You have a story. It's just if you're going to tell it or not, and if you're going to choose the right words and be efficient with your words, make it a relatable. Those are the things that impact people. Being intentional, thoughtful about your words. This is something that I'm learning every day because I am a chatty person, and so I can be quick with my words. This is something that we all have to learn in our relationships, not just in communication, like in public communication times. This is something that we learn even in our interpersonal communication situations, family members, friends, taking time to impact people with the words that we say. And, you know, whether you like it or not, you're going to impact people. You're either going to impact them positively and intentionally with the stories that you want to tell, or you're going to impact them by not focusing on those things, not focusing on being a better communicator. And something that I think drives all of this home, and something that we don't think about, and something I'm constantly having to think about, is this. When we're not learning to be a better communicator, when we're not focusing and we don't think that that's important, we don't care about the people around us. Because the better communicator we are, the more care we're taking with other people. So let me explain this a little bit better. You know, my best friend and I, we have a great relationship because we've gone through a lot of tough stuff together, and we've had to be apart for a very long time. And one of the things that we really focused on was good communication far apart, because we were far apart. And what that says to each of us is we care about each other. We care about learning to communicate in the best way possible. That means that I care about that relationship. She cares about that relationship by being a better communicator. So being a better communicator is about caring about people. I know that was not the most efficient way to say that, but I just want to drive that point home, because oftentimes we think about communication in public settings, public speaking and stuff, and not everybody's made to do that. But communication is also about relationships. The people that we see every day, our family members, our friends, striving to be a better communicator because we care about them, because we want them to be impacted, and we want to listen to what they have to say and strive to be better at that. So, does your story matter? Is it worth telling? Yes. Yes. Your story is worth telling. If we have anybody new joining, that's what we're talking about. Your story is worth telling. And, focusing on the things that I've listed in this thing, these are things I constantly go over too. Let me just run through those words super quick. Relatability, intentionality, pace, quality over quantity, thoughtfulness, focusing on our nonverbal communication, and confidence. Those are things that I have had to learn the hard way. The hard way. It's been rough. Like, it's not easy to get in front of a camera or to get in front of people and share my story. But I really want to see more of the people that I know, more of the people that I care about telling their story, telling the story that you were meant to tell. And it can be powerful. If you focus on these things, if you focus on being a better communicator, then you will communicate better. That sounds so stupid, but it's that basic. You learn these skills out of practice, habit. Those are some of the key things that I'm talking about over on my YouTube channel. How to practice good communication, which will create habit. Okay? Those are the things you need to focus on. So I want you to be inspired by this, not let down, not demotivated. I want you to be encouraged that these are the things that you need to focus on. And if you focus on these things, you're going to be a better communicator. Are you going to be the best communicator? No, I'm not the best communicator. I got lots to learn, and I will never be the best communicator out in the world. But if I'm striving to be a better communicator, then I will be a better communicator. It's like pushing for success and dealing with excellence, just kind of settling for excellence. I heard someone say that. I don't remember who it was, but someone said that and it stuck with me. Striving for success, for perfection, and kind of just ending up with, that excellence. I think that that's so, so important. And, I just really hope that you got some benefit out of this. And, if you want to come back and watch this, or if those of you who joined later and it wasn't live, I really hope that you just got some value out of this, because this is what I want to share. This is what I'm feeling really passionate about. This is what I was meant to tell. And, if you made it all the way to the end and you want to hear more, then go to my YouTube channel, go watch some of those videos, hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share, all that jazz. I don't want this to be an advertising gig. This is something that I wanted to share with you guys because I thought it was powerful. I thought that people needed to hear this. So this video, hopefully, I'll get it onto my YouTube channel today or tomorrow, and then you guys can go watch it there. You can watch it here. But I just thank you so much for joining and for watching this, and I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you sometime later. I'll be back. Live streams will be coming. Yeah, I just hope you have a great day.